My name is Daniel Wright and I'm 25 years old. What I'm about to tell you isn't a fairy tale about family reconciliation or the power of forgiveness. This is about the moment my mother sat in an auditorium with 3,000 people and watched me honor the man who raised me while her hands shook with the realization of everything she'd destroyed. This is about the day my parents learned that blind favoritism has permanent consequences. Before I tell you about that graduation ceremony, when Uncle Robert stood during my speech and my mother's composure shattered in front of everyone, I need to take you back to where it all started. Back to the driveway on Oakmont Street, where my twin brother stood next to our father's destroyed BMW and pointed at me with tears in his eyes, delivering the lie that would split our family forever. Being a twin sounds romantic until you live it. Especially when you're the one who lives in the shadow. My twin brother Ethan and I were born 11 minutes apart. Him first, me second. Those 11 minutes might as well have been 11 years for how differently our parents treated us. From the moment we could walk and talk, Ethan was the golden child. The charming one. The athletic one. The one who could do no wrong. I was the quiet one. The bookish one. The one who preferred science projects to soccer games. Not bad, just different. And in my parents' eyes, different meant lesser. Why can't you be more like your brother? My mother Jennifer asked me constantly. Ethan makes friends so easily. Ethan is so confident. Why do you have to be so awkward? My father Thomas was worse. He coached Ethan's baseball team, attended every game, bragged about every achievement. When I won the regional science fair 2 years in a row, Dad's response was, "That's nice. Did you see Ethan hit 2 home runs yesterday?" The pattern was consistent. Ethan's successes were celebrated, mine were acknowledged. Ethan's failures were excused, mine were scrutinized. When Ethan got detention for fighting, it was boys being boys. When I got a B+ in gym class, it was disappointing and not living up to my potential. By the time we were 13, the dynamic was firmly established. Ethan was the favorite and everyone knew it. Even Ethan knew it and he exploited it ruthlessly. He'd break something and blame me. He'd steal money from Mom's purse and say I did it. He'd start fights at school and claim I provoked them. And every single time our parents believed him. Because Ethan was trustworthy and I was just Daniel. Your brother wouldn't lie, Mom would say, not even bothering to hear my side. Stop trying to get your brother in trouble, Dad would add, sometimes not even looking up from his newspaper. I learned to accept it. This was my role in the family. The scapegoat, the disappointment, the shadow twin. I focused on school, on my small circle of friends who actually saw me, on the uncle who lived 4 hours away and treated both of us equally during his rare visits. Uncle Robert was Dad's younger brother, but they couldn't have been more different. Robert was a professor of engineering at a state university, unmarried, dedicated to his work and his students. He visited maybe 3 or 4 times a year, but those visits were lifelines. He'd ask me about my science projects, actually listen to my answers and tell me I was brilliant. Don't let anyone tell you that brains are less valuable than brawn, he told me once when I was 11, after Dad had dismissed another of my academic achievements to praise Ethan's latest sports trophy. The world runs on people who think, not people who throw balls. Remember that. I did remember. Uncle Robert's words were sometimes the only thing that made me feel like I mattered. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Saturday in October. I was in my room working on a chemistry assignment when I heard the crash. Not a small crash. A violent, metal-crunching, glass-shattering crash that made the house shake. I ran to the window and saw Dad's BMW. His pride and joy, the car he washed every Sunday and wouldn't let anyone touch, smashed into the oak tree in our front yard. The entire front end was crumpled. Steam poured from under the hood. Ethan climbed out of the driver's seat looking dazed. He saw me at the window and our eyes met. For just a second I saw panic in his face. Then Mom and Dad burst out of the house. What happened? Dad's voice was nearly a scream. He stood staring at his destroyed car, his face going from white to red. What the hell happened? I'm so sorry, Dad. Ethan's voice was shaking. I'm so sorry. I tried to stop him, I really did. Stop who? Mom demanded, looking around like she expected to see someone running away. Ethan pointed at me, still standing at my bedroom window. Daniel. He wanted to try driving. He begged me to let him, said he'd just go around the block. I told him no, but he grabbed the keys when I wasn't looking and I tried to stop him, Dad. I ran outside and tried to get him to stop, but he was going too fast and he hit the tree and... If you're genuinely enjoying this story, please hit that like button. But only if this story resonates with you. That's not true. I yelled from the window, already running for the stairs. I was in my room. I've been doing homework for 2 hours. But by the time I got outside, the narrative was set. Don't lie to me. Dad was in my face immediately, angrier than I'd ever seen him. You totaled my car. Do you have any idea what you've done? I didn't. I was in my room. Ask Ethan, he knows I wasn't. Ethan already told us what happened. Mom cut me off, her voice cold. He tried to stop you. He tried to be responsible. And you not only stole the car, you're lying about it now. I'm not lying. Ethan is lying. I turned to my brother, who stood there with tears streaming down his face, looking every bit the traumatized victim. Tell them the truth. You know I didn't do this. I saw you, Daniel, Ethan said quietly, his voice breaking perfectly. I saw you get in the car. I tried to stop you. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to blame me? Because you did it. I was yelling now, desperate. You crashed the car and you're blaming me like you always do. That's enough. Dad's voice was final, absolute. Get inside. Now. The next hour was a nightmare. Dad called the insurance company and reported that his 13-year-old son had taken the car without permission. Mom stood in the kitchen crying about how she'd failed as a mother. How could I be so reckless? What was wrong with me? Ethan sat on the couch, occasionally sniffling, playing the role of the concerned brother perfectly. I don't understand, I kept saying over and over. Why won't you believe me? I didn't do this. I would never do this. The evidence is clear, Dad said coldly. Ethan saw you. You were the one driving. You crashed my car. And now you're lying about it, which is somehow worse than the crash itself. Check my room. My homework is still open on my desk. Check the timestamps on my computer. I was doing research online when it happened. Anyone can fake that, Mom said dismissively. Leave a page open, run downstairs. We're not stupid, Daniel. But I didn't. Enough. Dad's shout made me flinch. Here's what's going to happen. You're grounded for 6 months. No phone, no computer, no friends, nothing. You'll go to school and come straight home. You're going to get a job and pay me back every penny of the insurance deductible, $2,500. And if you ever touch my property again without permission, I will make you regret it. Do you understand? This isn't fair, I whispered. Life isn't fair. You made a choice and now you face the consequences. Go to your room. I looked at Ethan one last time. He met my eyes and I saw it, just for a flash, the satisfaction. The smugness. He'd done this deliberately and he was getting away with it. I went to my room and called the only person I thought might believe me. Daniel. Uncle Robert answered on the second ring. Hey buddy. What's going on? I told him everything. The crash, Ethan's lie, our parents' immediate belief, the punishment. I tried not to cry but failed. Uncle Robert listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long silence. Daniel, I need you to tell me the absolute truth. Did you crash that car? No, Uncle Robert. I swear. I was in my room doing homework. I never touched the car. Another pause. I believe you. Those 3 words made me start sobbing. You do. I've known you your whole life. You're not a liar and you're not reckless. Ethan, on the other hand. He sighed. This isn't the first time something like this has happened, is it? No. But they always believe him. Always. I know. And I've tried to talk to your father about it, but he doesn't listen. Tom sees Ethan as the son he always wanted and you as, I don't know. It's wrong and it's not fair to you. What do I do? Can you get through tonight? Stay safe, stay in your room. Yeah. Hey. I'm going to call your father and try to talk some sense into him. If that doesn't work, we'll figure something out. Hang in there, kiddo. He hung up. I sat in my dark room and waited. 30 minutes later, I heard Dad's voice booming from downstairs. I don't care what you think, Robert. This is my house, my son, my decision. Stay out of it. The conversation escalated. I heard Uncle Robert's voice through the phone, calmer but insistent. Then Dad's final words. If you keep defending him, you're not welcome in this house anymore. The call ended. The house went silent. An hour later, my door opened. Dad stood there, his face still red with anger. Pack a bag. You're leaving. What? Your uncle seems to think you're innocent. He wants to take you in. Fine. I'm done dealing with your lies and your attitude. You have 30 minutes to pack whatever you can fit in one bag. Then you're out of this house. You're kicking me out? My voice was small, disbelieving. I'm 13. You're old enough to steal cars and lie about it. You're old enough to live with the consequences. But now. He slammed the door. I sat frozen for several minutes trying to process what was happening. My parents were kicking me out. At 13. Over something I didn't do. I packed mechanically. Clothes, toiletries, a few books, my laptop, chargers. I left behind trophies, photos, everything that said this had been my home. Because apparently it wasn't anymore. When I came downstairs with my bag, Mom was in the kitchen crying. Ethan was on the couch, not looking at me. Mom. I tried one last time. Please. Please believe me. I didn't do this. She wouldn't look at me. Robert is on his way. He'll be here in 4 hours. Wait on the porch. You're really doing this? Get out, Daniel. Dad's voice was flat, emotionless. We believe your brother. We don't believe you. There's nothing more to discuss. I walked out onto the porch with my single bag and sat on the steps. It was getting dark. Cold October wind cut through my hoodie. Behind me, through the window, I could see my family. Dad sitting in his chair, Mom bringing him coffee, Ethan turning on the TV. They looked normal. Complete. Like nothing had happened. Like I'd never existed. I sat on those steps for 4 hours watching cars pass, wondering how my life had fallen apart so completely in a single day. Finally, headlights turned into our driveway. Uncle Robert's truck pulled up and he got out, his face tight with controlled anger. Daniel. He walked up and pulled me into a hug. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You drove 4 hours, I said into his shoulder. Of course I did. You're my nephew. You called for help. Let's get you out of here. He grabbed my bag, guided me to the truck, and we drove away. I looked back once and saw Dad standing in the doorway, arms crossed, watching us leave. He didn't wave. Neither did I. Uncle Robert lived in a small college town 4 hours away. His house was modest, a 2-bedroom craftsman near campus, but it felt warmer than my parents' house ever had. You'll take the guest room, he said when we arrived near midnight. Tomorrow we'll figure out school, getting your records transferred, all that administrative stuff. Tonight you just sleep. Uncle Robert? I stopped him as he was heading to his own room. Thank you. For believing me. For coming to get me. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Sadness mixed with determination. Daniel, I want you to understand something. What your parents did tonight. That's on them. Not you. You didn't deserve this. You didn't cause this. They failed you, and I'm not going to let you suffer for their failure. You're staying with me as long as you need to, and we're going to make sure you have every opportunity to thrive. Understood. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow we start building your future. The legal process took 6 months. My parents agreed to an informal custody arrangement. I would live with Uncle Robert. They would maintain parental rights but have no financial responsibility. They didn't fight it. They barely participated in the process. Mom called twice in those 6 months asking how I was. The conversations were awkward, full of long silences. She never apologized. Never said they'd made a mistake. Just asked if I was settling in okay before making excuses to hang up. Dad never called once. Ethan sent me one text. Sorry things turned out this way. Hope you're doing okay. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say to someone who'd destroyed my life and felt no remorse. Uncle Robert, meanwhile, transformed my world. He enrolled me in the local middle school, met with counselors to ensure I was in advanced classes, and made sure I had everything I needed. He helped with homework, took me to science museums and lectures, encouraged my interest in engineering and technology. You're brilliant, he told me one evening when I was struggling with a particularly difficult physics problem. You have a mind for complex systems. Don't waste that gift. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Your support means the world. Under his guidance, I flourished. Without the constant comparisons to Ethan, without the pressure of being the disappointing twin, I could finally be myself. My grades shot up to straight A's. I joined the robotics club and the math team. I made friends who valued intelligence and curiosity. By high school, I was taking college-level courses. Uncle Robert taught me programming, introduced me to engineering concepts, pushed me to think bigger. MIT, he said when I was 15 and we were discussing colleges. That's where you should aim. Best engineering program in the world. You're smart enough. I know you are. MIT is expensive, I said. I knew Uncle Robert wasn't wealthy. He lived modestly on a professor's salary. Let me worry about that. You worry about getting in. I worked toward that goal obsessively. Perfect grades. Leadership positions. Research projects. Competition wins. Every achievement was one more step toward proving I wasn't the worthless scapegoat my parents thought I was. My biological family faded into background noise. Mom called maybe once every few months, always brief, always superficial. Dad never called. I heard through extended family that Ethan was struggling. Mediocre grades, behavioral issues, trouble with authority. Apparently, without me to blame, his true nature was becoming visible. I felt nothing hearing this news. No satisfaction, no sympathy. Just nothing. They were strangers now. When my MIT acceptance letter arrived, with a full-ride scholarship, Uncle Robert cried. Actually cried. I knew you could do it, he said, hugging me tight. I'm so proud of you, Daniel. So incredibly proud. I couldn't have done it without you, I told him honestly. You saved my life. No, he said firmly. I just gave you the space to save yourself. This is all you, kiddo. All you. MIT was intense, challenging, and exactly where I belonged. I thrived in the competitive academic environment, surrounded by other brilliant minds who valued innovation and problem-solving. I majored in computer science and electrical engineering, maintained a 3.9 GPA, and was recruited into a prestigious research lab my sophomore year. Uncle Robert visited whenever he could, always proud, always supportive. He called every Sunday without fail. When I struggled with imposter syndrome, feeling like I didn't belong among all these geniuses, he talked me through it. You earned your place there, he reminded me. You're not a charity case. You're one of the best students in the world. Act like it. During my junior year, I published my first academic paper on machine learning applications in robotics. It was accepted at a major conference. Uncle Robert flew out for my presentation. Your parents would be proud if they had any sense, he told me after my talk. I don't care what they think, I said. And I meant it. By the time I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I'd been accepted into MIT's PhD program with full funding. I was going to stay, continue my research, and become Dr. Daniel Wright. Uncle Robert was at that graduation too, cheering louder than anyone when my name was called. My biological parents weren't there. I hadn't invited them and they hadn't asked. The PhD program was grueling. 5 years of intensive research, teaching, publishing, and defending my work. I focused on artificial intelligence and robotics, specifically developing machine learning algorithms for autonomous systems. My research was cutting edge, and by my 4th year, I'd published 7 papers and won 2 major awards. Uncle Robert continued to be my rock. When I wanted to quit during a particularly brutal research setback, he drove 4 hours to take me to dinner and remind me why I'd started. When I successfully defended my dissertation proposal, he was the first person I called. You're going to change the world, Daniel, he said. I've always known it. As my dissertation defense approached, I began planning the final step. My PhD graduation. It would be a major event. MIT's commencement is attended by thousands, with distinguished speakers and significant media coverage. As the recipient of 2 major research awards, I'd been selected to give a student address during the doctoral hooding ceremony. I would speak in front of 3,000 people, including faculty, fellow graduates, and families. I sent Uncle Robert his invitation immediately. You're sitting front row. Non-negotiable. This degree belongs to both of us. Then I received an email from an address I hadn't seen in 12 years. Jennifer.wright.524@gmail.com. Daniel, this is your mother. We heard through your aunt that you're graduating with a PhD from MIT. We're so proud of you and would love to attend the ceremony if you can send us information. We miss you and hope to reconnect. Mom. I stared at that email for a long time. Proud? Miss me? They'd kicked me out at 13 and barely spoken to me since. Now that I had an MIT PhD, suddenly they wanted to reconnect? I showed Uncle Robert. What should I do? He was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do? Part of me wants to ignore them. Part of me wants them there so they can see exactly what they threw away. Then let them come. But Daniel, don't let their presence steal your joy. This is your day. Your achievement. You've earned this and you deserve to celebrate it fully. I replied to the email. 2 tickets will be at will call under your names. The ceremony is at 2 p.m. on May 15th. See you there. Mom responded immediately with thanks and how much they were looking forward to it. No apology. No acknowledgement of the 12 years of absence. Just excitement about attending. I didn't respond again. The morning of my PhD commencement, I woke up in Uncle Robert's hotel room. He'd flown in 2 days early to spend time with me before the ceremony. We had breakfast together and he helped me prepare my speech. Are you nervous? He asked. Terrified, I admitted. Public speaking in front of 3,000 people isn't exactly my strength. Just speak from the heart. Tell the truth. That's all you need to do. The ceremony was held in Killian Court, MIT Central Outdoor Space, with seating for 3,000 attendees. Doctoral candidates wore black robes with colored hoods representing their fields. Mine was orange for engineering. The stage was set up with a podium, the MIT president's chair, and seating for distinguished guests. I arrived early for the processional lineup. Uncle Robert texted me a photo of himself in his seat, front row center, wearing a suit and holding a small sign that read, "That's my son." I teared up seeing it. As we were organizing by department, I caught a glimpse of my biological parents arriving. Dad looked older, grayer, less imposing than I remembered. Mom had aged too, more lines around her eyes, her expression uncertain. They were scanning the crowd, probably looking for me. They'd been assigned seats in Section C, row 7, decent seats, but nowhere near Uncle Robert's front row position. I'd made sure of that. The ceremony began with traditional pomp. The processional march, the national anthem, welcome remarks from the president. Then came the doctoral hooding ceremony. Each PhD candidate was called individually to receive their hood from their dissertation advisor. When my name was called, Daniel Wright, Doctor of Philosophy in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. Uncle Robert's cheer was audible over the applause. I saw him standing, clapping so hard his hands had to hurt, that ridiculous sign held high. I caught a glimpse of my biological parents too. They were clapping politely, looking around like they were trying to figure out who the enthusiastic man in the front row was. After all candidates were hooded, it was time for speeches. The MIT president spoke, then a distinguished alumnus, then the moment I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. And now, to represent our doctoral graduates, we have Dr. Daniel Wright, who completed groundbreaking research in artificial intelligence and autonomous systems. Dr. Wright. The applause was substantial as I walked to the podium. 3,000 people looked at me, including the 2 who'd abandoned me and the one who'd saved me. I adjusted the microphone and began. President Reif, distinguished guests, faculty, families, and most importantly my fellow graduates, thank you for this honor. 12 years ago I was a 13-year-old kid standing on a porch with a single bag of belongings, watching my family drive away from me. I'd been kicked out of my house, accused of something I didn't do, labeled as a liar by the people who were supposed to believe me unconditionally. The audience was silent, attentive. I could see my biological parents sitting very still, starting to realize where this was going. My twin brother had blamed me for crashing our father's car. It was a lie. I was in my room doing homework when it happened, but my parents believed him immediately. They didn't investigate. They didn't question. They didn't consider that maybe, just maybe, the son they favored had made a mistake and was covering it up. They chose sides and I lost. I paused, looking directly at Uncle Robert, who was watching me with tears already streaming down his face. But I wasn't alone on that porch for long. Because my uncle, Professor Robert Wright, drove 4 hours in the middle of the night to get me. He didn't hesitate. He didn't question my story. He just said, "I believe you," and took me home. And for the next 12 years he gave me something my biological parents never did: unconditional support. Uncle Robert covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. Uncle Robert, I had to pause to control my own voice, became more than my guardian. He became my father in every way that matters. He encouraged my curiosity, challenged my thinking, and believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. When I said I wanted to go to MIT, he said, "Then that's where you'll go." When I struggled with imposter syndrome, he reminded me I'd earned my place. When I wanted to quit during difficult research phases, he drove 4 hours to buy me dinner and talk me through it. The audience was completely silent now. Some people were openly crying. Every achievement I celebrate today, every paper published, every award won, every problem solved, exists because one man saw a scared 13-year-old on a porch and said, "You're coming home with me." Because one man chose love over convenience, responsibility over easy dismissal, and dedication over biology. I looked at Uncle Robert directly. "Would you please stand?" He stood, wiping his eyes, looking overwhelmed. "This is Professor Robert Wright, my uncle by blood but my father by choice. He's a professor of engineering, a mentor to hundreds of students, and the single most important person in my life. He taught me that family isn't about who shares your DNA. It's about who shows up, who believes in you, who fights for you when the world or even your own parents turns against you." Uncle Robert was crying openly now, not bothering to hide it. Around him people were applauding. "Dad," I used the word deliberately, loudly, clearly, "this degree is as much yours as mine. You funded my education, supported my dreams, and gave me the foundation to succeed. You didn't have to do any of that. You chose to. And that choice changed my life." The applause was building. I glanced at my biological parents. Mom's hands were trembling visibly, pressed against her chest. She was pale, staring at Uncle Robert with an expression of dawning horror. Dad had gone rigid, his jaw clenched, refusing to look at anyone. Around them, people had clearly figured out who they were. The whispers had started. The looks. "To my biological parents," I said it calmly, matter-of-factly, "who are here today, thank you for teaching me what not to be. Thank you for showing me that titles don't make family. Thank you for giving up on me so that I could find someone who never would." Mom made a small sound, almost a gasp. Her hands were shaking so badly now that people near her were noticing, glancing at her, putting together the story. "And to every person listening who's been abandoned, scapegoated, or told they're not worth believing, you are. Your worth isn't determined by people too blind to see it. Find your Professor Wright. Find the person who will drive 4 hours in the middle of the night because you need them. And then build the life you deserve, because that's the best response to the people who underestimated you." I finished my speech with the traditional remarks about our responsibilities as PhDs, about advancing knowledge and serving society. But everyone knew the real message had already been delivered. When I returned to my seat, the applause was thunderous. Colleagues hugged me. Faculty members nodded with approval. And Uncle Robert, Dad, sat in the front row with his head in his hands, overcome with emotion. The ceremony continued, but I barely registered it. All I could think about was the look on my biological mother's face when I called Uncle Robert, Dad. The way her hands trembled like she'd been physically struck. The way my biological father sat frozen, unable to process what he'd just witnessed. They'd come hoping to reconnect with their successful son. Instead, they'd been publicly identified as the parents who'd abandoned a child over a lie and lost him to someone better. After the ceremony, there was a reception in the nearby tent. I was immediately surrounded by well-wishers, faculty, fellow graduates, MIT administrators. Through the crowd, I saw Uncle Robert pushing his way toward me. When he reached me, we both broke down. We held each other in that crowded tent and cried, not caring who saw. "I meant every word," I told him. "You're my dad. You've always been my dad. And you're my son," he said, voice breaking. "My son. I'm so proud of you. So incredibly proud." We were interrupted by a dean who wanted photos, then by journalists covering the ceremony. Through it all, Uncle Robert stayed by my side. I saw my biological parents once standing at the edge of the tent, looking lost. Mom's hands were still trembling. She kept clasping and unclasping them, trying to control the shaking. Dad looked smaller somehow, diminished. They didn't approach. After about 15 minutes, they left. I received their first message that night, an email from Mom. "Daniel, we didn't realize. We didn't know Robert had become so important to you. We thought you'd come back eventually. We thought when you graduated and became successful, we'd all reunite and it would be like nothing happened. We were wrong. So terribly wrong. Sitting in that audience, hearing you call Robert your father, watching your whole life unfold without us. It destroyed me. My hands are still shaking as I write this. Your father is devastated, though he won't admit it. We threw you away over a lie. We chose Ethan without even investigating. And we lost you. We lost everything. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if we can. But I need you to know we're sorry. We're so sorry. Please. Can we talk? Mom. I read that email 3 times. It felt, not nothing but close to it. Distant sympathy for people who'd realized too late what they'd destroyed. I didn't respond that night. Dad sent his own email 2 days later. Daniel, this is your father. I'm not good with emotions or apologies, but your mother is right. We made a terrible mistake. I was too stubborn to admit I'd chosen wrong, and by the time I realized Ethan had lied, too much time had passed. I told myself you were fine with Robert, that you'd moved on, that you didn't need us anymore. I was wrong. You did need us and we failed you. Watching you honor Robert as your father in front of thousands of people. I've never felt anything like that. Shame. Regret. The knowledge that I threw away my brilliant son over pride and favoritism. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to know that I know what I did. And I'm sorry. Thomas Wright. I sat with both emails for a week. Uncle Robert, dead, found me staring at them one evening. They wrote to you, he observed. Yeah. Apologizing. Asking to reconnect. What are you thinking? I don't know. Part of me wants to tell them it's too late. Part of me wonders if I should at least hear them out. Dad sat down next to me. Daniel, I'm going to tell you something I've never said out loud. When Tom kicked you out, when he chose to believe Ethan over you without even investigating, I lost respect for my brother. I couldn't understand how a parent could be so blind, so stubbornly committed to favoritism that he'd destroy his own son. And watching what you've accomplished, seeing the man you've become despite what they did. I've been angry at them for 12 years. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But I also know that anger and grudges eat at you from the inside. I'm not saying you have to forgive them or let them back into your life. But maybe you owe it to yourself to respond. To tell them exactly how you feel. To close that door definitively if that's what you choose, but to do it consciously. I thought about it for days. Finally, I wrote a response. Mom and Dad, I read your emails. I appreciate the apologies, though they come 12 years too late. You didn't just make a mistake, you made a choice. You chose to believe Ethan over me without investigation. You chose to punish me without proof. You chose to kick me out rather than admit you might have been wrong. And then you chose to maintain minimal contact for 12 years, only reaching out now that I've achieved something impressive enough to warrant your attention. Robert didn't choose me because I was impressive. He chose me because I needed him. He saw a scared kid on a porch and said, "You're coming home." He supported me through mediocre years and brilliant years with equal dedication. He earned the title of father through consistency, love, and sacrifice. You taught me that blood doesn't make family. Robert taught me what does. I'm grateful for both lessons, but only one of you deserves my gratitude beyond the educational value. I don't hate you. I don't wish you harm. But I also don't need you in my life. I have a father, in AI and robotics. My work has been cited thousands of times. I'm building the career I always dreamed of. Dad, Uncle Robert, is 58, still teaching, still inspiring students, still being the best father I could ask for. We talk almost daily. He visits often. When people ask about my family, I talk about him without hesitation. I heard through extended family that Ethan is struggling. He dropped out of college after 2 years, has bounced between jobs, and apparently has substance abuse issues. My biological parents are dealing with the consequences of raising a child who learned that lying and blame shifting would always save him. Until it didn't. I feel distant sympathy for them, but nothing more. They made their choices. I made mine. Sometimes people ask if I regret the speech at graduation. If I think I was too harsh, making such a public statement about my family situation. I don't regret it. That speech wasn't revenge, it was truth. It was honoring the man who deserved honor and making sure the world knew that family is defined by action, not biology. My biological mother's hands trembled when I called Uncle Robert my real father because she finally understood what she'd thrown away. Not just a son, but a brilliant, successful, loving son who would have honored her the way I honored Dad, if she'd earned it. She didn't earn it. Dad did. If you're reading this and you've been scapegoated, blamed for things you didn't do, or treated as lesser than a favored sibling, please hear me. Their blindness doesn't define your worth. Their inability to see your value doesn't diminish it. Find your Professor Wright. Find the person who will believe you, support you, and fight for you. Build your life with their help. And then thrive so completely that the people who underestimated you are forced to watch from the sidelines. I'm living proof it's possible. And to Dad, Professor Robert Wright, thank you. For that 4-hour drive in the middle of the night. For every Sunday phone call. For every word of encouragement. For showing me what a real father looks like. You didn't just save me from a bad situation. You saved me from becoming someone bitter and broken. Everything I am, I owe to you. I love you, Dad. Always.